what's on my cash stack. High yields on stable coins, yeah, that's where my bag at. All I really need is Wi-Fi, get money on DeFi, mega cash on MetaMask. You better run when the runners run, show you how to get your money up. Dollar inflated like bubble gum, markets are jumping like double dutch. Buying up gold till I get a ton, crypto, yeah, I got some. You better run when the runners run, you better run when the runners run.
All right, happy Tuesday, runners. It's June 27th, 2023. Tonight, we are going to break down the Fed Now program coming out in July and Cbdc'S, central bank digital currencies, and what it means for you and how you can win. As always, I got my good brother here, Ricardo Hamilton, a.k.a. Mims. Make it make sense. Bro, this is going to be your toughest assignment yet.
Look, I'm gonna tell you one thing. I know one thing for sure. It's critical. It's important, and we're right on top of it and helping people understand the magnitude of what's taking place and letting them know their options. Because the only thing constant in the universe is change, and one thing you want to do is be prepared for that change, so you don't get wiped out as it comes along. So we got a information packed show for y'all tonight, and you know how we do. Lace up. Let's get wealthy.
So Fed Now stands for the Federal Reserve, which is, we're going to talk about what is that? What is the Federal Reserve? Is it federal? Is there a reserve? Who knows? But this is basically a way to have instant payments with banks. Because right now, if you try to move money from one bank account to another, it's called an ACH. Sometimes it takes 2, 3, even 5 days, right? And it's like, is this really happening? Like, we're in 2023, we got cryptocurrency that happens in 1 second. We got Cash App, Venmo. Why are banks still taking 3 to 5 days? Like, what's going on here? So first, Ricardo, let's break down. What is the Federal Reserve? Because if it's Fed Now, all right, if the Federal Reserve is running this, what are they?
Yeah.
So let's see what the Federal Reserve does. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis is, I don't know if they just put out the most information, but most of the stuff we get, or when I study the Federal Reserve, comes from them. All right, the St. Louis Fed, because I think there's 10 different branches. All right. So who owns the Federal Reserve banks? The Federal Reserve banks are not part of the federal government. Again, this is from the Federal Reserve, Ricardo.
Yeah.
But they exist because of an act of Congress. Their purpose is to serve the public. So is the Fed private or public? The answer is both. Well, the Board of Governors is an independent government agency. The Federal Reserve banks are set up like private corporations. Interesting. Private corporations.
Right.
Member banks hold the stock in the Federal Reserve banks and earn dividends. Holding the stock does not carry with it the control and financial interest given to holders of common stock in for-profit organizations. The stock may not be sold or pledged as collateral for loans. Member banks also elect 6 of the 9 members of each bank's board of directors. So, Ricardo, Mims, make it make sense here. What do people need to know and understand about the Federal Reserve before we get into Fed Now?
Yeah, well, one thing is the Federal Reserve is private, and people have to understand the difference because, people believe we live in a democracy, and some people know that we live in a republic. But the whole point is that the government is supposed to be for the people, by the people, right? It's supposed to work for us in our interest, not to serve corporations, special interests, and governments or people overseas. It's supposed to serve us. So we vote for people who are supposed to represent our interest, who have our interest at heart. But when you have a private banking cartel, which is the Federal Reserve, they're looking out for their own interest, okay, and their shareholders. And so it's the illusion as if that they are looking out for you and the public in the best interest, when really they're looking out for themselves. It's almost like, the movie The Wizard of Oz. That's what that was kind of, an allegory about, right? A story about. follow the yellow brick road, which will leave you home. It was gold, and her shoes were actually silver as opposed to ruby. They changed that out, but the green man behind the screen pulling the smokes and make it seem like they had all this power. But people really need to understand is that the Federal Reserve is not a part of the government. Okay, they might as well be pirates. Okay, and so you got pirates, running the financial system, and these pirates put on business suits. They got a tie on, they got a jacket, but
They
they're
know how to dress.
but yeah,
They know how to look the part.
right. They know how to look the part, but they're not for you. Nobody voted Jerome Powell to be
Nope.
nobody voted for the board members on the Federal Reserve.
Nope.
These are people who were put in place by people who were looking out for their own interests. So it's critical that you do understand that when people trying to understand about the Federal Reserve, it's not a part of the government. They don't have your interest at heart. It's a private
Nope.
banking cartel.
Well, Ricardo, let's not be too tough on them. Maybe all those rich, wealthy, elite people who are part of a private banking cartel really just want to make the world a better place. I'm going to play devil's advocate now.
Right.
Or I'm just going to be funny. I don't know which one. I guess you guys can take it how you want. All right. So let's look just really quick at this article from NerdWallet, because I want you guys to know like what you're going to see from mainstream sources. And I really like NerdWallet if you want to do some financial stuff. So this is from Spencer, May 22nd, 2023. All right, I'm just going to hit some of the highlights here. All right. There's a new payment service come to the financial industry this year. The Federal Reserve, again, a private banking cartel, will offer instant payments that can be sent anytime. Still, unlike consumer-facing transfer services such as Venmo or Zelle, the service's ability will depend on whether your bank opts in. Let's break it down. And banks will have to opt in. I'm assuming most of them will, because where do they get their money? The Federal Reserve.
Exactly.
It's their daddy.
Right.
So FedNow is the Federal Reserve's newest payment service that will enable customers at participating banks and credit unions to send and receive money within seconds, 24/7 and every day. You'd be able to complete payments or transfers on weekends, holidays, and after bank's business hours, which isn't the case for standard online transfers such as those through the Automated Clearinghouse Network, or ACH, which is typically if you're sending money to someone's bank account, you're using ACH 3 to 5 days. What FedNow will do is enable all the banks, any bank in the United States, not just the big ones, to offer instantly available funds and real-time payments to their customers, said Fed Chair Jerome Powell on March 8th. So when will it launch? July 2023, next month. How will it work? Payments between banks typically require clearing and settlement. Clearing means that banks exchange information about a payment and can include other activities to check for fraud. The transfer speed is instant. The Fed defines an instant payment as a recipient having full access to funds within seconds of the payment being sent. Cost. FedNow will charge fees to its participating institutions, but it's unclear if banks will pass FedNow costs to its customers. Bruh. I don't think I have that. There we go.
Bruh.
Seriously?
Right.
Do you think
we already know
Reserve's gonna charge
Yeah.
banks money and they're not gonna pass them to us?
No, they're gonna call it another tax. That's another hidden form of tax.
Right.
Because all the Federal Reserve is there for is a confiscation of wealth mechanism. This country was never supposed to have a private central bank, because the founding fathers of this country understood that a private central bank in these shores on America is worse than a standing army. Okay, we're better off at war and having China and on our shores, with tanks and submarines, than having a Federal Reserve system. The founding fathers understood that, but no, they're going to transfer whatever cost it is to us as a form of another hidden form of tax.
Well, huge news right now, Ricardo. Forget FedNow. Travis Flaherty is on the live, and he's coming here next week. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. All right, miss you, brother. Travis has been traveling out in France, Italy, Monaco, living the dream. So, man, I will take that right now. Travis Flaherty on next Tuesday with the Runners.
Awesome. That's going to be a powerful show. Anytime the trio get together, folks, I'm telling you, magic happens, and we got to let you guys know the updates, not just on what's going on with this phenomenal debt project, but what's going on in the economy and how you can prepare yourself. So we fired up. That's going to be a great show. I already know it.
Yeah, and that'll be after July 1st, where we have lots of news coming out
Oh,
in
lots
the
of
node
news.
space. Lots
Oh
of news
yeah.
coming out in the
Oh
node.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
It-
So, anyways, it will only be for domestic payments. If you guys have ever tried to send money to someone in Canada or the UK or Australia, it's a nightmare. Fees, difficulty doing it. This is
Mhm.
why, we want to decentralize and love crypto.
Yeah.
So anyways, what it means for you now, 2 uses for FedNow at its launch include bill payments and account-to-account transfers. Being able to send money instantly could be helpful, especially if you're on a tight budget and susceptible to late payment fees. So for example, when I watched some YouTube videos on this, everyone was like, hey, a bill's due and you forgot about it and it's like midnight. You can now make that payment instantly versus, it takes 3 to 5 days. So initially,
Yeah.
I like what I'm hearing, Ricardo. And I'm going to
Yeah.
play a little devil's advocate.
Right. There.
Why does it take 3 to 5 days to send money? This is insanity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, if you just looked at it as, well, this is how, we can be easily deceived. They give with one hand and they take
Mm,
with the other. Okay. So while they'll have you focusing on, hey, this is a good thing, this is a positive, you don't really see the true design of what it is that they're trying to do and how it actually is taking away more of your freedom, more of your privacy. And that's the part that we're going to get into. But essentially, there has to be, usually when you make a transaction, there's a lot of middlemen in between that transaction. Okay. What's happening here is that the Federal Reserve is first, and then if
mm,
there's any other activity behind it, like on the bank's ledger, the bank will get the money instantly from the Federal Reserve, as opposed to before it was the bank to bank transfer. They they would change the ledger on their books, and then that might, they get their money from the Fed. The Fed's position has just moved. Okay.
mm,
It moved closer to now where it's more direct with you. And that is a problem because of the type of programmable money that they have created and the type of restrictions that it comes with. So sure, it sounds good, which we have instant payments now, blockchain. We can do it ourselves, decentralized, and not have the type of a tyranny that really comes with their system that most people don't really understand. And that's the part that they don't really want you to grasp. They want to kind of just brush over it. But we want to make sure people understand that, and then let them know that there are options to move around that, so they can be able to have more control over their life and their freedom.
Perfect segue, Ricardo. Perfect segue. So the main video we're going to watch today, I think, will explain it all. We can give some comments and kind of add, our beliefs and what we think you guys need to focus on. So let's get into it right now.
The Chinese last month unveiled the world's first digital currency from a major power. Currency that would not be printed but would exist only in cyberspace on your phone, for example. Is the Fed working on a digital dollar?
We are actually evaluating that. Most major countries are now looking at the possibility of having a digital currency and really asking the question.
Imagine a government that creates money that has an expiration date.
Let's just pause there, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Imagine that if your money has an expiration date. This is already happening in China right now.
And let me say this too, also, guys. Remember that they have already stopped printing new cash. We are going into a cashless society, so they want to eliminate any anonymity. You know what I'm saying? That you have, your ability to be able to conduct transactions privately. They want to know everything that you're doing, and we had some kind of privacy with cash. I can go to the bank today, pull out $300 cash, and go spend it, and the only person who knows what I did with the cash is the person who I spent that cash with for a certain period of time, right? But now they're getting rid of cash and they're moving everything digital. So understand that they are ushering us into a new era, and this new era financially is not in our favor and it's not in our best interest. And it's important that we understand that so we can empower ourselves to find other solutions or resist if we need to, which we do.
No, it's a
Go
good,
ahead, buddy.
it's a good point.
Right.
And if you don't use it, it'll disappear. That's happening already with the digital yuan, and Americans are rightfully skeptical.
President Biden issued an executive order to explore the creation of a U.S. central bank digital currency, effectively converting the dollar into a centralized digital currency.
The Federal Reserve just announced that it's about to show us its new digital payment system this year in July. This is having a huge ripple effect across the entire internet because the US dollar is in the process of being replaced by a central bank digital currency, or a CBDC.
So I went to say this when you said that last thing, Ricardo, is if you look at your dollar bills, guys, any dollar bills you have, see if you can find any printed after 2017. I've put this challenge out on Facebook, and we've talked about it on the live. I can't find any dollar bill printed after 2017. Maybe I'm wrong. Ricardo told me about this. I didn't believe him at first. I started looking at every dollar bill I had, everything I saw, nothing past 2017. So if you can find a bill after 2017, let us know.
Yep, they stopped printing, and they did it during the COVID as well, where they were taking away. They were talking about a change shortage. They're slowly
Yeah, I remember
phasing
that.
out the cash. Yeah.
The government.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, most countries around the world are creating their own right now.
What if I told you 90% now of the world's central banks say they're investigating central bank digital coins?
According to a report by Citi, by 2030, there will be up to 5 trillion digital dollars circulating the global economy. But there's a problem, because most Americans don't trust the government to do this. In the 1950s, for example, the era that was called the golden age of capitalism, when we had unprecedented economic growth and higher wages, a point in history far from perfect, but in 1958, Pew Research asked the American people if they trusted the US government to do what was in their best interest. And they did. That trust reached a peak of 77% by 1964. But over time, that trust has been gradually eroding, and today, that number has dropped all the way to 20.
So that's huge, bro. Like, again, we're not here to like get into politics and stuff. But think about that. 20% of Americans trust the government?
And it's probably worse at this moment in time. And what that really is an indication of is that the social contract has been torn. The social contract between the people and the government is essentially at this point eviscerated. There is no faith. There is no trust. They have divided us so much. Ain't nobody got time for that. You know, they divided us, you know, us versus our police, you know, us versus each other in so many different ways. And we're all just trying to live. You know, but yeah, the social fabric, the social contract between the government and the people is just totally done. And you can see that in the data, and it's probably worse definitely today, I would believe, less than 20%.
I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad, whether I celebrate it that 80% of the people realize like the government can't be trusted, and the other 20%, I'm like, what are you smoking?
Right. Yeah.
Have some of that.
They said you could
The way to
I was just gonna say, they say you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Yeah.
20. Only 1 out of 5 Americans trust the government to do this. And it's also why people like to use other forms of money like cash and even cryptocurrency. But
And gold and silver, guys. Again, this is the biggest argument ever for gold and silver.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. This is why gold and silver is constitutional money. Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. They understood throughout history how governments would try to take control and debase your currency. And so that's why gold and silver is so critical right now. And of course, we show people how to get that physically delivered to their home.
Yep. History just keeps repeating, bro.
Yep.
But right now, the government has their own idea for a CBDC, central bank digital currency. And this will have a huge consequence, not only on ideas like privacy, freedom, but even Bitcoin.
Okay, so now we're moving into the CBDC realm. And it blew my mind. So my uncle has been a banker and audit credit unions for like 30 years. And he was at my son's birthday a couple weeks ago. And I said something to him about CBDC. And he's very intelligent, stays up on politics. He goes, "What's a CBDC?" which is kind of the inspiration for this live.
Yeah, I wasn't
Right? Like,
expecting
if
that.
you have an intelligent, educated, like with politics, banker, he doesn't know what a CBD is or CBDC,
CBDC.
CBDC.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, this is why we need to get this education information out to people.
They only teach them what they want them to know.
Mm.
Yeah.
So in today's video, I want to help explain exactly what this is, how this might work, and how this will ultimately affect us. So with that said, let's get right into it. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the new Fed payment system and CBDCs. Now, the two are somewhat connected, but they're not the same, even though people are confusing them as one.
It's a whole new system that's faster and better than traditional banking. You can go to a grocery store and buy a few items with your hard-earned money, and then you present your Fed card with a trusty Federal Reserve representative, and they'll say, oh, yeah, you're too fat, so you can't buy any of these things. The end.
Yeah, so that's not at all how it works. Here's how it actually works. This new payment system will make it...
Now, before I get into this, Ricardo, I will say, like, I'm not here to promote Glenn Beck, but that's like what Glenn said is a lot of the things you'll hear from more right-wing people or maybe people on TikTok. Is there anything you wanted to say to that?
Well, I would say like this. There are some people who believe that during the pandemic, it was a good idea to take everything and do everything that the government was saying. And then there were some people who obviously were saying, well, hold on, some things don't make sense here. This probably isn't what you should be doing so soon because it hasn't been vetted. It hasn't been tested. It just came out. There's no real scientific data to support any of that. And so, there are people who have greater ability to discern. And then a lot of times, depending on where you're getting your information from, for them to maintain their status or their channel and their livelihood, they have to present things in a certain way. Otherwise, they won't get that type of light. So some people, are ringing the alarm bells, which they should be rung. Dissenting opinions are always good, and that's why we have the First Amendment here, freedom of speech. And then some people are just going to believe that there's nothing to worry about. We trust the government. The government is here to help. So you're going to have the 20%, right, who still trust the government, and they're going to get the news that substantiates their belief. And there's going to be corporations that will provide the news to, fuel what they believe, to be true. And then there's the 80% who are putting out this content like, nah, we see what's going on. We know what time it is. We understand that the Federal Reserve has understand something, folks. The problem that we're in right now, we're literally trying to go to the people who've created the problem and ask them for a solution. The Federal Reserve is public enemy number one. They are the problem. A private central bank is the problem. They create value out of nothing. They're taxing us on it. They're manipulating the currency. They're confiscating our wealth. It's totally, it's not for us, right? So they created the problem along with the banks. When you have 2008 and you have all these disparities and you have inequalities in the system and everything else, it's because of the Federal Reserve and the private banks that go up around them. They're the problem. So now we have a financial crisis, a debt crisis, and you're going to go to them to now provide a solution for you. And their solution is going to be total control. We need more control.
Just give us more control. Everything will be fine.
Yeah. We didn't have enough control. The little control you gave us is why we're in the problem. Give us 100% control of your money, 100% control of your lives, and then we'll fix it.
I love it. I'm in.
Yeah, right.
So Bob, that's what people are afraid of, right? That's kind of what Glenn Beck was talking about.
Yeah.
But if you look at NBC News, they would say you're a crazy conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Why? When the government would try to stop you from getting guns or ammo, that will never happen. You're crazy, Bob.
Well, I mean, look at it right now. The government doesn't, they want background checks or guns, or they want to roll back your freedoms, your ability to acquire certain things. Okay, there's a such thing as called a domestic terrorist. But if you look at what a domestic terror is, if the standard was like if you had stored water, if you store food.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was like basic
buy
stuff.
Silver.
Right. If you buy silver.
Believe in freedom and liberty. You're a domestic terrorist.
Yeah. Believe in the Constitution. You know what I mean? It's like they've labeled you you know, in this category. And so now when they see that you're making certain transactions, they'll say, well, hold on, you actually last month you bought some ammo. You don't need ammo this month. How much
Nope.
ammo do you need? What are you actually
Nope.
doing with all this ammo? It's literally, it's not good. It's not good at all. It's not good if you believe in liberty and freedom. It's not good. And I get it. Some people think that, well, I'm not doing anything bad. I just, you know, there's the people who
That's
don't
the
do
worst argument ever.
yeah. Yeah, you can check me out, you know, you could go through my house, you can go through my bank accounts. I'm not doing any criminal activity. I trust my government, but don't
Oh,
realize is that it's a setup.
remind me, Ricardo.
Yeah.
I saw a video today that was all about basically every problem we have today with poverty, relationships, like
Yeah.
divorce and kids struggling,
Yeah.
all stems from 1971 when we
Mm.
went off the gold standard.
Wow.
So we're gonna
That's
have to
tough.
cover. Maybe that's after Travis. That might be the next one. But
Okay.
all right, let's get into Fed now.
So that businesses and people will be able to send and receive instant payments 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and that's because funds will settle between banks in real time and will only just take seconds. Here's a
So again, I'm all for that. Okay, I'm down with the Fed now. That banks can finally send real time payments. That's good.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. I agree.
Ridiculous it
Velocity of
takes
money.
3 to 5 days.
Velocity of money is critical in a financial system.
Yes.
That way we can have liquidity move faster. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
couple examples of how this will be used in practice. Let's say you were a coffee shop owner and you needed a quick delivery of some coffee beans. Once you got a request of payment from your supplier, you would pay through a participating bank like your credit union, and the coffee bean supplier would instantly receive your payment. On the back end of things, your credit union would send an ISO 20022, which is a digital form to the
Okay, Ricardo. Mims, make it make sense about what that is and what people need to know.
It comes down to the infrastructure, folks, you know, and what actually gives something the ability to actually function. And when it comes to the ISO 20022, a lot of people understand that, you know, the rails that these payments are going to move through are going to, and then ISO 20022 talks about it. It's like the XRPs, the XLMs, the XDCs, the Algorand, I think the H bars, and I think Quant might be on there. And so this is why a lot of people are like trying to find these, you know, real blockchain crypto, you know, projects that are actually being used in the financial system that can have a lot of value and put them in position to create, you know, life-changing income and, you know, wealth and different things of that nature. It's also one of the reasons why we believe that the XRP SEC lawsuit takes place, because so many people, you know, something of this magnitude, they normally don't want us to have access to. You'd have to be an accredited investor and things. And I have seen that now there's some bills going through Congress where they're reducing the requirements to be a accredited investor. You can take a test as opposed to it being based on your financial situation and things of that nature. But it's important that people understand that, you know, these projects that this new financial system is going to run on, these are projects that we can get into right now that are like pennies right now, XRP and other projects. And that's why you want to have a position in them. But, you know, this is the opportunity. It's why we, you know, but if you don't know, you don't know. And there might come a time, because we talk about Operation Choke Point, where they're going to limit your ability to even acquire these assets. This is why we say you don't want to wait, you know, and I tell people I'd rather be 1 year, 2 years too early than 1 day too late. If they're pennies now, that's fine. Just understand where the movement and money and activity is going. But you want to pick these up now and to start acquiring these assets before it's either too late or you get priced out.
Yeah, and you guys can see here, these are the ISO 20022 tokens as of now. And again, think about this, guy. We're not like telling you to go out and buy these tokens. All right, we're just educating you.
Right.
But think about XRP is like 50 cents right now.
Yeah.
Think about how many XRP there are versus dollars.
Yeah.
There's way less XRP, but yet it's 50 cents.
Yeah.
And it's going to be implementing this ISO 2022 whatever thing.
Yeah.
So
and internationally too, it's governments around the world, okay, are on these payment rails. You know what I mean? So this is global.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
FedNow service, which would validate it and send a message to the Coffee Beans bank. That receiving bank would then confirm in real time that it could receive the payment, and the FedNow service would then debit and credit the money and then send a message to both banks that the settlement was completed. Now, that whole process, which sounds insanely complicated, would happen pretty much instantaneously. But the system we have right now just takes a lot more banks, time, and a lot more money. And this service will eventually apply for things like bill pay and for sending money from one account to another. This will be super helpful if, for example, you have a utility bill that's due on that same day and you want to pay it right away without paying late penalty fees. Now, eventually the Fed will want us to use it for peer-to-peer transactions so we can send money to each other in the same way that we use Venmo or Apple Pay. For now, though, this service will only be made available to people within the United States, so you won't be able to send money instantaneously overseas. Now, this will be rolled out in phases starting in July, but already in the first week of April, they're giving out formal certifications for their quote participants. So that is the FedNow payment system, which is tied to the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. So let me explain what that is. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor.
All right, let me scroll through this. All right, I think we hit it there. There we go.
The central bank digital currency is happening all over the world. 11 countries have already launched their own digital currency, including the Bahamas with their sand dollar, Jamaica, and Nigeria. 18 countries are in the testing phase. 32 countries are developing.
Wait, did they just have that backed by commodities? Is that what I just saw, Ricardo? I missed that part. Hold on one second.
Yeah, go back. And it's, yeah, they are doing it, backed by commodities.
Okay,
something.
launched, retail. Okay, no, I think I missed something there. All right.
It is, though. I know in Zimbabwe, they've launched their own central bank digital currency, and it's backed by gold. They're launching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Around the world, their currencies is going to be backed by and valued by the commodities. Yes, that is how it's functioning. That's what's going to give value to their currency.
And Nigeria. 18 countries are in the testing phase. 32 countries are developing their own right now.
I mean, guys, this is happening. Like, the question is, like we talk about with everything, right? Like, something can be good or evil, depending, like, you can use money for good or bad, right? So, but this is happening. Like, you need to get educated and understand how to move in this space.
39 are trying to figure it all out and researching. Only 15 are inactive and 2 are canceled. But all in all, 114 countries representing 95% of the world's.
Wow.
Yeah, that's everybody. You might as well just say. I mean, you might as well just say everybody at that point. I mean,
GDP.
Yeah. So no, it's like you said. It's here, Mike. This is not.
Yep.
Yeah, this is not a hypothesis. Or something. This is real and live.
Are in some way involved with this process, including the US. Now, the obvious question is, why is the Federal Reserve so focused on digitizing dollars if the dollar is already digital and it's already on our phone? The answer is, there's a huge difference between true digital currency and the system we have today, because our current monetary system relies more on digital claims of currency. This is why when we use banks and we transfer from one account to another, or we use apps like Zelle and Venmo and Apple Pay, we're actually sending digital IOUs and digital claims to money, but not necessarily the money itself. And that's why banks need to use third-party banks to verify transactions to make sure that the money we are sending exists there in the first place. And a true digital currency would be true value transferred from A to B without the use of a bunch of third-party banks. All of this.
So that's kind of funny, Ricardo, right? Because a dollar is an IOU.
Right.
That. So
right.
It's like, well, I'm going to take this dollar and create another IOU.
Yeah.
To send it to you before it clears with the banking system.
It's a whole nother derivative. It's another way to hypothecate value from nothing yet again. It's just another way of bamboozling people, not understanding what is valuable and what is money. And one of the other things about this is that, I remember during 2008, and they was talking about the banks, the repo markets, and the banks had to settle their books. Now, normally they would settle their books between each other. One would give us some debt for the other, and help balance their books. But then if they couldn't meet it, they would borrow from the Fed, and the Fed had to have the open window discount rate open up to $1 trillion. That showed that there was a problem in the financial system. But with now, as opposed to the Fed being on the back end. Now the Fed being in the front, now it just changes the way that accountability and how we are tracking and valuing the funds now in this system totally upside down and backwards. But it's just not good. It just allows them to literally, because for one thing, here's another big thing that you guys need to keep in mind. The Federal Reserve is non-auditable. Okay.
Yep.
So nobody has ever audited to the Federal Reserve. So we don't even know how bad this situation is. They could have created a couple quadrillion dollars on the balance sheet between central banks swapping currencies between other countries and around the world. We have no idea really what is going on at the Fed. It has never been audited. So now, if we had banks that had to have some type of financial responsibility and be able to have stress tests and things of this nature, if now the Fed is on the front end, they can hide all of that.
Yeah.
We're talking about to oblivion, literally, just trillions upon hundreds of trillions of quadrillion dollars. The whole thing could be just off, but the Federal Reserve can just create value from nothing, digital currency. And once again, it's not like we're going to audit the Fed. It's not like, hey, Fed, you created a lot of these digital dollars. Where the hell did this 1.2 quadrillion dollars go? You will never know. Just like we don't know right now.
No, and that reminds me of like when I kind of had my awakening and kind of got more into politics, it was from Ron Paul running in 2008. And his whole platform was audit the Fed.
At least,
audit
not
the
end
Fed.
Yeah.
And even people on the left, like Bernie Sanders, supposedly were like, yeah, like this is a private banking cartel. And, let's do this. And then he flipped at the very end. And it's never happened. Rand Paul has tried to get it done. Literally, the Federal Reserve has never been audited in the history of the world.
Never. That's horrible. That's a big
unbelievable
problem.
That
the Federal Reserve
is a private banking cartel.
Yeah, that's what's going on. And public enemy number one. I'm telling you, a lot of problems that we have in society today, dealing with, like you talked about, Mike, our relationships, our standard of living, everything. It stems down to the financial system, the maldistribution of wealth, and everything.
And we've talked about that before. It's like, the number one cause of divorce is financial issues,
Everything follows the money.
This is starting to sound kind of like the things crypto is already trying to solve. Except there's a couple huge differences. CBDCs are controlled through a private network by the government, so they're not decentralized. And that gives the government full control over its supply and how quickly they can move it from point A to point B.
So key point here, guys. Okay, if you get nothing from this tonight, get this. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are a ledger that's electronic, but it's not decentralized, right? There's no way to check and verify what's going on here, who's stopping it, who's creating more of it, who's taking it away. Blockchain that we talk about most of the time is open source, meaning we can see and know what's going on everywhere, which is why we love the nodes that we do.
Yeah.
Because we can see exactly on the blockchain,
Yep.
Where did this token come from? When was it burnt? When was it sent? Who bought? Who sold? That will not be, they're essentially using the same technology, but none of it is controlled by us, only them.
Yeah, there's no transparency.
Right.
And if you have your government running things, you don't want your government acting like a secret society. Okay? That's not what you want. You want your government should have open and public debates. There should be no more this behind closed doors deals being brokered and the American people not understanding what's going on. There shouldn't be these behind closed doors and dark rooms with who knows who's in the room. You don't know who's in the room. These Bilderberg groups, Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commissions, these people are getting together and charting out your life and have no idea, what they have planned for you. Right. But that has to end. Like that is once again part of the problem. So it's critical that people tap into that and really understand what's going on that's in our favor and what's not in our favor.
Yeah, 100%, man.
And with that, there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons. Now there's a ton of opinions on this subject, so I'm going to save mine toward the end of the video if you want to see that. But if the government creates their own CBDC, here's what that would allow them to do that's good and not so good. A central bank digital currency would give the Fed direct control over the supply of money, which is actually good, because right now they already do this with something called quantitative easing. We saw this during the pandemic when they flooded the economy with money by buying mortgage-backed securities and treasury bonds. But it can also shrink the supply of money through quantitative tightening, which is the same process but in reverse, by selling off their assets, which is what they're doing now, with the exception of this anomaly, which represents all of those failed bank bailouts. The point is this: our financial system is so complicated that it almost works like a Rube Goldberg machine if you've ever seen those. So think of this new central bank digital currency system as financial enslavement, but with less steps. If I disappear, it was...
I like that part because it's straightforward. You know?
Yeah. I mean, we're enslaved anyways. Let's just make it quicker.
And that's what people don't realize. It's like, people are using their phone, they're using these apps, they don't read terms and conditions, but they know that the government's spying on them. They know that none of their data is private. They know that these corporations and everybody has information. And you get so accustomed to it. And that's, what people have to realize is that we're all frogs in hot water right now.
Boiling water.
And we're all frogs in the boiling water, and we've been in this boiling water for some time. You were born into this boiling water. In 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. That was them cranking up the temperature. But people didn't realize, because they came out of the economic boom of the roaring 50s and everything else, they didn't realize that the water was slowly changing, it's warming up, and now we're at the point where it's boiling. And now some people are starting to realize, that they need to either they thinking that they're in a jacuzzi, and that they think
I'm in the hot tub, man.
I'm in the
This
hot
feels
tub.
good.
I'm in the hot tub. Okay, or they don't realize that they're in some little witch's brew. Okay, and you getting ready to be soup for some. Oh goodness, man!
Some
I'm just
Klaus
telling you,
Schwab.
some wicked, right? Some Klaus
Schwab
Schwab
cooking you up.
Yeah, that's what's happening. So it's some people waking up and they're saying no. So now, he talked about it's the Federal Reserve and whatever, and what they're doing is good. Listen, anything the Federal Reserve do is automatically bad. It's automatically corrupt. It's automatically inherent, not good for you. It's a private banking cartel that you can't audit. Now, what is good for the American people in this government is to return to sound money. We shouldn't be printing more money than we have of value and resources to substantiate it. There shouldn't be this hypothecation of debt. Yeah, sure. People say, well, we borrow money, get your credit up so you can buy the house, because most people don't have $300,000, $500,000 to buy the house. Well, the reason you don't have that is because they printed so much currency and overvalued the house. So now you need credit because they have devalued the purchasing power of your money so much that they have to create mechanisms to give you money, which actually just enslaves you even more, because you're paying on something that is worthless anyway. With these dollars, the house didn't increase in value, but they got you paying taxes on it. They got you doing all this and don't understand that it's all rigged and set up for them to confiscate your wealth. Because during the next financial crisis, which happens every 10 years or so, when they crash the markets or when they raise interest rates or mess with the economy, the black swan event happens. Then you see a lot of people losing their homes. You see a lot of people losing their jobs, losing half of their 401ks. Their credit scores now getting shot again. And now you got to rebuild and try to get yourself all back together. But at the same time, the banks, the 1% and the people who are in position, they're just getting wealthier and wealthier. That's why the wealth gap keeps increasing. They're saying, well, why is it that the wealthy are getting wealthier and the poor are getting poor? Because it's a setup and it's rigged. And that's why in 2008, a lot of people were waking up. We had Occupy Wall Street. We had the Tea Party. We had people like, hold on, there's a problem with the financial system. Screw the banks. What's going on with the system? And then everybody just kind of went back to sleep again. But now it's like we said, it's at the point where the water's boiling, and you better either realize that you're not in jacuzzi and hop up out of this and get into some sound money and some blockchain and crypto, or you're gonna get wiped out. You're gonna be cooked.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, that's why we call them memes, making it make sense. And guys, this is what we're all about, is helping people, guys. The storm's coming. We got the solutions. We got the answers. We want to see you guys win. Let's keep learning and educating.
was not by magic. Another benefit is speed. Because money will be programmable, it would hypothetically stabilize the value of the dollar, and it would modernize the banks. It would also make sending money and stimulus by the government much faster, and in theory lower the cost of banking because it would force the banks to compete with the Fed to make transfers and even ATM machines much cheaper. A CBDC would also help with tax revenues because most people wouldn't have to file their taxes. Instead, the government would know exactly how much money we've made, so they would send us an invoice and we would just have to pay. So it sounds like a lot of really great benefits, but unfortunately, there's a lot of downsides.
Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, Mike. People's wondering. They say, "Well, why is it that we need 80,000 IRS agents?" And they say, "Well,
Right.
why is it that but most people don't know? I think it's the IRS and I don't know if it's the Social Security Administration, but one of them is sitting on like over 1 billion rounds of bullets. Okay, like the government has been preparing, okay, for this for quite some time now. They have everything broken down into districts. They knew what was coming. The government, the Defense Department, they all know that there's going to be a shift in the global economy financially, a shutdown of the economy, a reboot of a new system, and they know in that transition is going to be chaos. They know in that transition that there's going to be some places where it's dark and no power, and some places where it's light. And so it's just important that people understand that what is happening is not random. It's not something that wasn't foreseen. It's something that has been planned and anticipated for quite some time now. And now it's at the point, like in The Wizard of Oz, where they couldn't hide it no more. You weren't just seeing on the screen this smoking screen and this big face, and it looked all scary. We're actually behind the stage now. We can see behind the curtain now. You know what I'm saying? The veil has been lifted. Now it's up to you to believe what you're seeing or go along with the dream. You know what I'm saying?
The veil has been lifted, brother.
Yeah.
You can see it if you have eyes. Those
Right.
who have eyes will see it.
Eyes to see, ears to hear.
Sides and a lot of risks.
So what the central bank digital currency is all about is surveilling Americans and controlling behavior of Americans. And how do we know? Because we've seen this happen in other parts of the world.
People are calling the concept of CBDCs as Big Brother's digital dollar, and it makes
Write that down, kids. Big Brother's digital dollar, CBDCs. That's the bullet point, okay, if you want to understand it.
sense why people are skeptical, because CBDCs will be tied to your unique digital ID that'll be used to build your social proof.
All right. Here's where I got a problem, Ricardo. All right. If you guys finally figured out a way to send money in a few seconds, which we've been doing forever with Cash App and cryptocurrency, cool. But we don't need a digital ID and a social credit score. Any comments on that? Because to me, this is when things start to turn for the worse.
Yeah, this is definitely dark. Okay,
Yeah.
this is definitely dystopia. Yeah,
Whew.
we
We're on the same vibe.
Right. I mean, we laughing, but it's real and it's serious. Once again, these are just ways that they're going to track and control. And some people might not, you'll say Big Brother, and for the average person who's just going to work, paying their bills, spending time with their family, they probably might not see Big Brother as an issue. They don't understand the erosion of their rights. They don't understand, just how they've got into the position that they've in. With Big Brother and them tying the social credit score and everything tied to that, it's literally they want to take away your humanity. They don't like that you have free will. Free will is sent to them, right? They want to be able to limit and control what you do, how you do it. And they want to put mechanisms in place to put you in a box. They want everybody in a box. This is the new social order. So we talk about one world government, one world religion, but there's one world society. There's one world way of conducting yourself. It's almost like the movie called Equilibrium. Everybody was pretty much programmed in a certain way, and they had you take this pill, which kind of made you docile, and that's what they want to do.
That could never happen here, Ricardo.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why they want to give the power to the
they
world.
would not try to force us to put something in our body. You're being crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, they've already done it. They've tried, right? There's a lot of people who already knew what that was. But if I recommend go watch the movie Equilibrium, pretty much breaks it down. You know, it's breaking out of the matrix, breaking out of this box and control, and they were putting something in your body, and they've already done it with like fluoride. Fluoride is a neurotoxin. It inhibits your fight or flight ability. It kind of calcifies your pineal gland. And so what they're doing is that they're you know, we talk about this, the demasculation of men, you know what I mean? And so it's all these things that they're trying to control human behavior. So if you get outside of the parameters or the framework of how they think you should act, you know, you get upset and they got you on Big Brother, and they'll reduce your social credit score right then and there, and
Done.
you're done. You're done. And so it's just it's real. And listen, whether you think that they'll do this in real life or not is irrelevant. For the simple fact that they have the ability to is a problem. They should not have the ability to do that. The government
Nailed it.
The government is not our master. Okay? We don't have to do and listen to everything that they say. Okay? That's why the founding fathers, and you have to read what they said and put the Constitution the way they said it. The first thing is we have to have the freedom of speech to be able to speak about and speak out against atrocities and errors in the way our government is functioning. And then number two is that we have to have the ability to change it if we need to. And so the Second Amendment is if in case our government is no longer our government and is now acting as our master, which that was not the purpose of setting up a government, to put ourselves into slavery and to be controlled. And that's what people have to wake up and realize. They give you the illusion that if you're voting for somebody that you have power, but you don't. You don't.
All right. We better stop you there,
Yeah,
Ricardo. We
yeah,
want
I
to get
know.
banned and canceled again. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, absolute fire, brother.
Yeah.
Which all sounds exactly like the next plot of a Black Mirror episode. If the government wanted, they could freeze your assets, and if they don't like what you're spending, with the flick of a switch, your bank account now shows zero.
Mr. President, the Blemflark's value just dropped to nothing.
What do you mean?
I mean, our single centralized galactic currency just went from being worth 1 of itself to 0 of itself.
I love this little cartoon here. This is hilarious.
Calm down, people. Deploy the galactic militia and declare martial law.
Yes, sir. What should I pay them with? Their payment is the honor they'll feel to serve their... Wait, who's paying me to yell at this guy?
Give me your jacket!
Give me those pants!
The creation of a CBDC would give them the technological power to do exactly that. If the government wanted to encourage spending, they could airdrop some dollars in our bank accounts instantaneously, which sounds nice. But if they want to discourage saving, with the flick of a switch, the money could have an expiration date, which is exactly what China did to encourage spending. Now, if all of this stuff sounds like a conspiracy theory, you don't have to look at China for that to happen, because all governments can abuse power, including the US. Because on April 5th, 1933, this happened. This was a decree issued by Franklin Roosevelt which gave US citizens 1 month to give up their claims to gold, including coins, bullion, and certificates.
So, Mims, the government has already taken away all the real money, or they tried to. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Most people know that you know, they took away the dollar, they took away the gold from the people. And a lot of people look at this and they'll say, well, why should we hold gold right now? One thing is to remember is that even when they did take the gold from the people, they paid you for it. Now, when they took the gold, they did reevaluate it and make it more valuable because they created more currency, right? But they did pay the people for it. But nonetheless, yes, the government already and the Federal Reserve already manipulates the value of money with interest rates and increasing the money supply or reducing the money supply. So they already influence behavior. It's just that now with the central bank digital currency, it's much more instant and it has much more of a direct effect.
So, and just so most people know, most people didn't turn in their gold. Thankfully, they were like us, right? They were like, wait, you want me to turn in my gold? Nah.
Nope.
Yeah, from my cold dead hands, right? With my double
get
barrel, right? Come and get it.
Everything was confiscated and had to be returned back to the Federal Reserve. But that's not even the crazy part. The crazy part is the people that did not agree to do this faced 10 years in prison and up to $10,000 per year in fines. Now, just for context, back in 1933, that $10,000 represented over 3 times what the average person made in a single year. So that would be like if today the government told us to turn in all our cash or risk being fined over $180,000 per year. Now, you might be thinking the government would never repeat the same mistake from 1933. And you might be right, but you don't have to look very far in history to look for clues on abuse of power. Between 2010 and 2012, the IRS prioritized conservatives and eventually apologized for unfairly targeting them for tax evasion. This naturally happens when power has an agenda and the technological ability to actually enforce it. So the question we have to ask ourselves is it worth the risk? So here's my personal opinion. Let me just channel my inner Warren Buffett for just a second, because even though it's 2023, it's starting to feel a lot more like 1984. You know what I mean? No, you wouldn't, because it's just like me, a really old reference. So I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything, because I don't know if I fully understand this stuff myself, because it is so complicated, but from my point of view, I don't think this is a fight against cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin. I don't think the government cares. Nor do I think this is a fight against consumers, and I don't think consumers care. When was the last time you got a Venmo payment from a friend and thought, this better settle now? Said no one ever. If anything, this is about commerce on a global scale. This is the way for the Federal Reserve to combine what the government is good at, which is trust in its currency system, something it had a lot more of in the past, and combining it with the innovation from the private banking sector. Because hopefully by combining the two, they can create an innovative financial product that allows the US to stay ahead on the global stage. The byproduct of which happens to be full control. But it's also not a tool that the government needed to add to its toolbox. It's got plenty of those. But still, regardless of how much people oppose the idea of CBDCs, I think they're inevitable. As countries around the world launch their own, the US won't want to be left behind. Even the World Economic Forum have told us that if the central banks don't innovate, they'll be left behind and lose the idea of money and trust and, quote, control. So it makes sense why they have to innovate. But does that mean you should sell your dollars and buy some Bitcoin? Probably not. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I still am just a little bit as a hedge. And that's just me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to...
So, yeah, we don't need the government to be in charge of money. We have decentralized. We have gold and silver. You know what I mean? Anytime you have a human person in charge of something, the ability for corruption is always there, especially over time. We got these career politicians in here. They're bought and paid for. You know, they're lobbied 24/7. It's corrupt. And then when you understand that the Federal Reserve came out in 1913, and then right after that, they set up the IRS. It was to confiscate your wealth.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence, right? 1913, here's the Federal Reserve. Well, now we need a way to confiscate that. And most people don't know that income tax is totally unconstitutional. It's it was something that was instituted to fund the war, and but it shouldn't have lasted this long. You know what I mean? Yeah, income taxes was needed to help fund the war. And after the war was over, it should have something that should have ended.
And it was only to the rich people at first. That's how they sold it. We're only going to tax the rich.
Yeah, that's how they do every plan.
Switch.
Oh, if you're making under 250,000, you won't feel it. Well, that's a lie, because you've devalued the currency, and business owners are just going to pass on their incurred expenses to the consumer.
Of course.
But because you don't understand that, because you don't know that on surface value, if you just go based off what they say, you'll think everything is sweet until you realize the fine print, until you understand how the banking, financial, and monetary system actually works. This is why Henry Ford said if the American people ever understood the present banking and monetary system, there will be a revolution by tomorrow morning. It's because the masses of people really don't comprehend what we're talking about and the ramifications of it as we continue to allow it to go and exist. We do not need the Fed. Central bank digital currency does at this point might seem inevitable, but we should not lose the understanding that we are in control of our lives, and collectively we make the decision. It's just that we haven't took control. We've voted and passed on our power. We need to keep our power and come together and be able to reconstitute. You know, that's why we need to see a constitutional convention. That's what we need to roll back all of this tyranny that they've placed over time and get back to the grassroots of what actually made this republic beautiful and would work, minus some
So,
other things.
so I think his summary, and
Yeah.
again, I always like to give credit. Andre is a great YouTuber, and I've learned a lot from him. I love his videos, which is why I decided to select him tonight. But I think he really, really hit the nail on the head there, right? Fed now is coming next month. There's nothing we can do to stop it. All right. Central bank digital currencies will probably happen. And in some ways, it makes sense, right? It's always that balance of, security and liberty,
Yeah, privacy.
you know, and we have got to be vigilant. We've got to be educated. We've got to be informed. We have to know the power that we have as a people. Because if 80% of the people don't trust the government, I would think we could get certain things in place or certain people in place to where we should be able to send money in our bank within seconds. This is not rocket science, people. Like,
We don't need the banks anymore. We have technology that has replaced. That's like saying we still need tape cassettes. No, we have, you know what I'm saying? We have digital, music now. Like we don't need tape. Some institutions need to die. And this banking system and the Federal Reserve is one of those institutions that we no longer need. It doesn't support us. We have very intelligent people. We have blockchain technology. We need
well,
to rehaul of the
hold
system.
on, Ricardo.
And then I know, and let me say this too, is that I can't remember who said it. I want to say Benjamin Franklin, but one of the founding fathers said, those who would give up their security, their liberties for security, deserve neither.
Yep.
Okay. So do not think that the government say, okay, give up, your privacy and we'll protect you. You deserve neither and you will get neither because you're dealing with fallible human beings. Now, the reason we like blockchain and why we're saying we don't need banks is because it's a trustless system. You don't have to trust the blockchain. You don't have to trust the smart contract. It's going to do what it's supposed to do unbiased. Go ahead, Mike.
So I disagree. I think we do need banks. 70% of people in America don't even have $1,000, right? Most people work a job. They get a direct deposit into their account every Friday or every 2 weeks or every month, whatever it is. They need to pay bills. Those bills can't be paid in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency right now. Like
right now, yeah, right now, but easily that can be something that's done in the future. But the thing is this is what I'm saying, Mike. The reason I can tell you right now we don't need banks because they're really getting rid of banks by implementing FedNow. You see, first you would deal with the bank. You're no longer dealing with the bank. You're dealing with FedNow. So the banking system is an illusion.
Well, FedNow connects the banks.
But your money goes straight to FedNow first, and then the FedNow.
No, it's got to be in the bank, and then the FedNow is like the connector to the banks, to the other bank. Like if I sent you money through a bank, right, I would be with Chase. It would go to FedNow, and then it would go to your bank.
Yeah, I got you. The whole thing is that one of the major core things is that we have to get back to sound money. And if we have this with the Fed,
we agree on that.
we have to audit the Fed. You know what I mean? But we just wanted to at least bring this to the forefront, help people kind of understand this better, the pros and the cons, how you can hedge against it, how you can diversify, what are some of the solutions, and the proper perspective and some key things to remember about these institutions that are implementing these things, how they actually function, who's running them, so you can be able to see the hidden pitfalls or the hidden disadvantages that they don't necessarily promote out there and celebrate. So it's not necessarily doom and gloom. They will implement FedNow in phases. So they'll all the good stuff they'll probably roll out first, and then all the sort of draconian, evil-looking things they'll have out in the back end. But
No,
essentially,
and I think
doesn't sound.
I think it comes down to, like we talked about with Apple Provision, right? I mean, you could say the same thing about the cell phone. There's going to be lots of negative things that happen, and there's going to be people that utilize this technology for good. Same with Apple Provision. Same thing with FedNow and CBDCs. Like, there's good things with it, and there's going to be lots of negative things that we need to know about and guard against.
Yeah.
But here's one thing we can all agree on. Okay. As Rob just said, okay, everything comes back to silver.
Yeah.
So give us the hashtag silver for freedom.
Yeah.
Silver for freedom. We are talking about real money that's been around for 10,000 years, that has maintained its purchasing power. And again, gold's okay, but I'm telling you guys, the future is all about silver, point blank, period. That's a whole nother live.
So those who've been
last words.
Yeah, definitely. So those who've been running with us, this is what we do. We try to stay informed and help others stay informed, so that we can make sure a wealthy family comes from us, even though we didn't come from a wealthy family, because their stated goal is to reduce the population. Their stated goal is for you to own nothing and be happy. What we have seen with their track record is not a system that serves the vets. It's not a system that serves the homeless. It's not a system that serves those who are disadvantaged. It's not a system that is teaching our children, how to be the best that they can be. It's not a system that is fair to the average person. And so there are, it's like a yin and yang in anything in life. There's a lot of, negative and bad things going on, but there's always a little bit of good. And then even when there's a little bit of good or a lot of good, there's always probably some little bit of bad. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are diversified. You want to hedge against this. You want to give yourself some options. And so this is why we talk about saving in physical silver, right? And getting it delivered to your home on a consistent basis, and gold. This is why we talk about getting into blockchain and cryptocurrency. We talked about XRP and the ISO 20022 compliant tokens. And we talk about the debt box and having cryptocurrency that's backed by commodities, getting paid every single day for the rest of your life in cryptocurrency by owning a piece of the blockchain that pays you in these rewards, and, being able to diversify and have something of real value and create multiple streams of income. So we're definitely going to be documenting this. We're documenting the collapse. We've been documenting the collapse. We're documenting the global reset.
Yes, sir.
And we want to make sure that, when we find something that we know is valuable, that the community could benefit from and probably should have as a tool or an option, we put it inside the Runners app. So anybody who wants to, be able to get gold, silver, obviously be able to get paid every single day for the rest of their life in cryptocurrency backed by commodities with the debt box and this node ecosystem that they're creating, and utilize some other features that we're using today already, but just in a better way. We've put them inside the Runners app.
Yeah. I mean, I say this all the time. Banking is a necessary evil at this point. We can manifest and dream about the day we don't need them, but right now we do.
Yeah.
So let's profit as much as we can from it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my man. Awesome live tonight. I had a great time. I think, we had great numbers tonight. So I think a lot of people found value in what is FedNow.
Yeah.
What are CBDCs? What do we need to be aware of and educated on to create and manifest the future where we can help more people become free and live out their dreams and not have to struggle and, go through agony every single day. That's what we want, is to change the world one family at a time, one swipe at a time, one asset at a time. So guys, next week, Travis Flaherty is going to be on the Runners Live. I'm already excited.
Yeah, that's going to be fire, folks. So stay plugged in and look for that show.
I forgot. Tomorrow night, we are going underground, guys. We're going underground tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Yep. Get inside the Runners app.
Get inside the Runners app, Runners Facebook group. All the links are down below. We're looking at our Facebook. You can find out what we are doing tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Yep.
But you're going to want to definitely check it out.
All right.
Lace up.
Lace up. Let's get wealthy. Peace.
cash on my cash stack. High yields on stable coins, yeah, that's where my bag at. All I really need is Wi-Fi, get money on DeFi, mega cash on MetaMask. You better run when the runners run, show you how to get your money up. Dollar inflated like bubble gum, markets are jumping like